How does a poor boy, born in a one-room shack in Scotland, rise to become the richest man on earth? This isn't just a rags to riches story. It's a paradox, a tale of genius and greed, vision and vengeance, compassion and cruelty, all within one man. Andrew Carnegie, the name that built America's backbone, the man who forged its bridges, powered its railroads, and stacked its skyline with steel. But behind that shimmering legacy lies a darker truth, because Andrew Carnegie had two sides. Publicly, he was a prophet of peace, preaching about workers' rights, education, opportunity for all. He donated millions to schools, universities, and nearly 3,000 libraries around the world, claiming to help others climb the same ladder he once did. Privately, though, he ruled his empire like a tyrant. He slashed wages, stretched hours, and worked men to death in brutal, hellish mills where safety was optional and survival was luck. He crushed unions with an iron fist and left broken families in his wake. This is the story of the man who built America and broke its people doing it. The immigrant who turned molten steel into gold. The boy who watched his father die poor and swore he'd never meet the same fate. But to understand how this titan was forged, we must go back to 1835, where a young boy looked out across the cold, gray skies of Scotland, dreaming of a better life on the other side of the ocean. Andrew Carnegie's story begins in Dunfermline, Scotland. Not in luxury, but in desperation. His first home? A cramped, single-room cottage shared with another family. His father, a humble loom weaver, made cloth by hand until machines changed everything. The Industrial Revolution swept through Scotland like wildfire, replacing men with machines. And suddenly, Andrew's father had no work. His mother, strong, relentless, began repairing shoes just to keep the family alive, while young Andrew watched his father beg for jobs that never came. That image, a proud man reduced to pleading, burned itself into Andrew's soul. He swore to himself, one day he'd be so rich, he'd never beg anyone for anything. In 1848, the family sold everything they owned, every stick of furniture, every thread of hope, and boarded a ship to America. The destination, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The promise, a new life. But reality? It was harsh. America wasn't paved with gold. It was covered in soot and sweat. Andrew's parents could barely find work, so at just 12 years old, he dropped out of school after only 5 years of education and took his first job in a cotton mill, earning $1.20 a week. The noise was deafening, the heat unbearable. But when he brought home that first paycheck, he said, no amount of money ever made him happier. He climbed fast, first as an engineer's assistant, then as a messenger boy in a Pittsburgh telegraph office. That job changed everything. Every telegram delivered was a chance to meet someone important. Businessmen, railroad tycoons, political players. Andrew memorized their names, faces, and roots. He made himself known. One of those men was Thomas A. Scott, a powerful regional manager for the Pennsylvania Railroad. Scott saw a spark in the boy and took him under his wing. He became Andrew's mentor, his teacher, his protector, his example. By 18, Andrew was Scott's personal telegrapher and private secretary, earning $35 a month. A fortune for a poor immigrant. But what mattered most wasn't the money. It was the education. Under Scott, Carnegie learned how corporations really worked, how power moved, how money flowed, how to turn opportunity into empire. But tragedy wasn't far. His father, the man he once vowed to make proud, died a broken man at just 51. That night, Andrew made a promise to his mother. I'll make us rich. You'll never want for anything again. Neither of them could have imagined just how far that promise would go. By his late 20s, Andrew Carnegie was climbing the corporate ladder, fast. Working side by side with Tom Scott, he helped expand America's railroads, making trains bigger, faster, and more efficient than ever before. They even introduced 24-hour train schedules, a concept so bold it changed transportation forever. Scott taught him another secret of the wealthy: insider investment. He told Andrew, "Buy stock in a company called Adams Express." Andrew followed the advice, and overnight, the value skyrocketed. For the first time, he made money without working for it. And in that moment, his eyes opened. True wealth wasn't earned with sweat. It was multiplied with strategy. By 30, Carnegie was making over $50,000 a year. He left the railroad business, moved to New York City with his mother, living in luxury for the first time in his life. But his ambitions, they were just getting started. He saw what others didn't: iron bridges. America was expanding westward. The railroads needed stronger bridges for heavier trains, and wood just wouldn't cut it anymore. So Carnegie founded the Keystone Bridge Company, using lessons from Tom Scott to control everything, from the iron mines to the construction sites. That's when his biggest challenge arrived, and his greatest gamble. He was asked to build the first bridge across the mighty Mississippi River, connecting the East and West. It would be over a mile long, the largest of its kind. But ordinary iron couldn't survive the river's power. Carnegie needed something stronger. He turned to steel. At the time, steel was rare, expensive, used only for knives, jewelry, and fine tools. But Carnegie saw something no one else did. Steel was the future. He poured his entire fortune into finding a way to make it cheaper, traveling from factory to factory, meeting chemists, inventors, metallurgists, until he met one man, Henry Bessemer. Bessemer's invention, a massive converter, could turn molten iron into steel in minutes instead of weeks. It was revolutionary, and Carnegie knew it. This wasn't just an invention. It was the key to a new world. He risked everything, investing nearly all his wealth to build enormous steel plants using Bessemer's process. And the result? The first great steel bridge over the Mississippi River, a structure so massive, people thought it would collapse. So, on opening day, Carnegie did something theatrical, something cinematic. He had a circus elephant lead the parade across the bridge. People believed elephants could sense danger, that they wouldn't step on unstable ground. When the elephant made it across safely, the crowd erupted, cheering as the Eads Bridge opened to the world. It still stands today, the first monument of Carnegie steel. But for Andrew, this wasn't just a bridge. It was proof. Steel wasn't just a product. It was destiny. The success of the Eads Bridge made Andrew Carnegie a steel baron overnight. His mills churned out rails, bridges, and beams, faster, cheaper, and stronger than anyone else in the world. His motto was simple: watch the costs, and the profits will take care of themselves. To cut costs, he ran his mills like machines. Men worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, with only one day off a year, the 4th of July. The conditions? Brutal. The injuries? Horrific. The deaths? Frequent. Workers were pushed beyond exhaustion, forced into cruel competitions for speed, while those who fell behind were simply replaced. And yet, Carnegie's empire grew. His mills produced 225 tons of steel every single day, fueling America's rise. Skyscrapers, railroads, bridges, all built with Carnegie steel. But soon, a storm hit. A financial depression. The railroads, his biggest customers, began to collapse. And in that vacuum, a new empire rose, an empire of oil. And its king was John D. Rockefeller. Rockefeller played the crisis like a symphony, forcing railroads to ship his oil at rock-bottom prices until they went bankrupt. One of those railroads belonged to Tom Scott, Carnegie's old mentor. When Scott begged for help, Carnegie, cold and calculating, turned him away. Soon after, Scott died. At the graveside in the pouring rain, Carnegie whispered through gritted teeth, "Rockefeller killed him." From that moment on, the two men became enemies, the king of steel versus the king of oil. Their feud was personal. Rockefeller once mailed Carnegie a cheap paper vest, mocking his poor beginnings. Carnegie fired back with a bottle of whiskey, knowing Rockefeller, a strict Baptist, wouldn't dare touch it. It was war, a battle of egos, power and pride. Fueled by rage and ambition, Carnegie set his sights on the next frontier. The skies. America's cities were rising, and with cheap steel, the impossible became possible. Skyscrapers. Soon, Carnegie steel became the skeleton of America's skyline. New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh, all shining with his legacy. By the 1880s, he was earning over $1.5 million a year. But to him, it still wasn't enough. Because Rockefeller was still richer. Carnegie wanted more efficiency, more control, more profit. And the man he was about to bring into his empire would change everything. And soon, there would be blood on his hands. When Andrew Carnegie brought in Henry Clay Frick to help run his steel empire, he unknowingly invited a storm. Frick wasn't just another businessman, he was a predator in a tailored suit. A man who once vowed to be a millionaire by 30, and did it, with ruthless precision. Cold, fearless, unbothered, Frick didn't care what anyone thought. While Carnegie obsessed over his image, Frick simply didn't give a damn. Carnegie wanted power, without the blood on his hands, and Frick became his perfect weapon, the man who'd do the dirty work. With intimidation and calculation, Frick restructured contracts, slashed waste, and doubled profits. But his true value? He was Carnegie's shield. Whenever wages were cut or hours extended, it was Frick's name on the decision, not Andrew's. Together, they were unstoppable. A blend of charm and cruelty that ruled America's steel. Then came a rival, Duquesne Steel Works. They were faster, smarter, and beating Carnegie at his own game. So Andrew and Frick fought back, not with steel, but with psychological warfare. They spread a rumor that Duquesne's steel lacked homogeneity, a vague word, but terrifying enough to kill their reputation. Customers fled. Duquesne went bankrupt, and when the dust settled, Carnegie and Frick swooped in, bought the company for pennies, and copied the very methods they'd called unsafe. Brilliance and pure deceit. Profits exploded, the empire expanded, and Andrew's fortune soared into what would now be billions. But this partnership, this unholy alliance, was built on moral quicksand, because Frick's next project would drown thousands in tragedy. He founded a private retreat, the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club, a paradise for America's richest, including Carnegie himself. But to create their lake, they weakened the South Fork Dam, ignoring every safety warning. Then came the rains, 1889, relentless, unforgiving. And when the dam finally broke, it unleashed a wall of water that obliterated Johnstown. Over 2,000 people died. 400 of them were children. It became the worst man-made disaster in U.S. history. Frick and his elite club used their wealth to escape blame. Carnegie claimed innocence, but his name would forever be stained by tragedy. The Johnstown flood became his moral reckoning, the first crack in his carefully polished image. Yet even this disaster couldn't stop him. His empire grew, his profits soared. But deep inside, his conscience began to fracture, and as storm clouds gathered over his steel mills, one decision was about to destroy everything he'd built, forever. By the early 1890s, Andrew Carnegie's workers had become the invisible fuel of his empire. Underpaid, overworked, and trapped in lives that never seemed to change. They watched, helplessly, as Carnegie's wealth exploded, while their own families barely had enough to survive. It was infuriating. The same man who wrote essays about workers' rights was secretly ordering wage cuts behind closed doors. Publicly, he spoke of libraries and opportunity. He even built one for his workers, but few ever entered it. They were too exhausted, too poor, or too uneducated to read. The library wasn't a gift, it was a shield, a way to polish Carnegie's image. Then came Homestead. When Carnegie bought the Homestead steel mill, he inherited a powerful union, the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers. But as their contract neared renewal, Carnegie wanted total control. He publicly preached peace, yet privately, he told Frick, "Crush the union, by any means necessary." And so, in 1892, while Carnegie retreated to his Scottish castle for a vacation, Frick prepared for war. He lengthened workdays, cut wages, and stockpiled steel, ready for the strike he knew was coming. When negotiations began, Frick demanded a 22% wage cut and the dissolution of the union. It was a slap in the face, and the workers refused. Desperate, they sent letters to Carnegie, pleading with the benevolent owner to intervene. But Andrew made sure he was unreachable. Except, of course, for his secret letters to Frick, giving him full permission to do whatever was necessary. When talks failed, Frick locked out the workers, assuming they'd break in days. Instead, thousands of steelmen seized the mill, barricading it with fury and desperation. Frick answered with fire. He hired 300 armed Pinkertons, a private army, to retake Homestead. Before dawn, July 6, 1892, barges crept up the river carrying the mercenaries, but on the banks stood the workers, armed with clubs, guns, and rage. Someone fired the first shot. No one knows who. But in that instant, the Battle of Homestead began. For 12 brutal hours, the riverbank became a war zone. Dynamite exploded. Gunfire tore through the air. Flames lit the night sky. When the smoke cleared, 9 workers and 7 Pinkertons were dead. Dozens more lay bleeding on the ground. The Pinkertons surrendered, beaten and bloodied. And for a moment, the workers believed they had won. But their victory was short-lived. Days later, the Pennsylvania governor sent in 8,000 state troops to retake the mill. The strikers were crushed, the union destroyed. The Homestead strike broke steel unions for nearly 50 years, a triumph for Carnegie's empire, but a moral disaster for his soul. Public outrage exploded. Frick was branded a monster, Carnegie, a coward. From his castle in Scotland, he wrote, "Had I been there, the tragedy would not have occurred." But his letters told another story. He had known everything, approved everything, and profited from all of it. When an anarchist tried to assassinate Frick, some sympathy shifted toward the industrialists, but the damage was done. Carnegie's name was now stained with blood. And as his empire grew richer, his friendship with Frick began to rot. Accusations flew, lawsuits followed, and betrayal consumed them both. The empire they built together was now tearing them apart, not from the outside, but from within. The partnership between Carnegie and Frick ended not with glory, but with bitterness, lawsuits, and public humiliation. Frick accused him of cheating, calling Carnegie a goddamned thief. Their courtroom feud ripped open the truth. Carnegie Steel was making over $40 million a year. That's about $1.4 billion today. To end the war, Andrew paid $31.6 million to buy Frick out. They never spoke again. Frick mocked him from afar, even building his skyscraper taller than Carnegie's, just to cast a literal shadow over his old partner. Yet, despite enemies and scandals, Carnegie's empire only grew stronger. By 1900, his mills were producing more steel than all of Britain. But Andrew, now in his 70s, was tired. His wife urged him to step away, to finally let it all go. And so, when J.P. Morgan, the titan of finance, came knocking, Carnegie listened. Acting as middleman was Charles Schwab, Carnegie Steel's brilliant young president. He caught Morgan's attention and approached Andrew when he was most relaxed, on the golf course. There, under the soft rustle of wind and iron, Carnegie pulled out a notepad and wrote his price. $480 million. Nearly $17 billion today. Morgan didn't even blink. "You have a deal," he said. Carnegie smiled. "I wonder if I could have asked for 100 million more." Morgan grinned back. "If you had, you'd have gotten it." And just like that, with a handshake, U.S. Steel was born, the world's first billion-dollar corporation, and Andrew Carnegie became the richest man alive. But when the ink dried, he did something no one expected. He walked away. No more business, no more profit, no more power. His new obsession? Giving it all away. He once said, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced." And he meant it. Over time, he gave away over $350 million, nearly 90% of his fortune. He built 2,500 libraries, founded universities, and created institutions like Carnegie Mellon and the Carnegie Corporation, which still stand today. He refused to leave vast wealth to his heirs, saying it would kill their ambition. Some called it guilt, an attempt to wash away the blood of Johnstown and Homestead. Others called it redemption. Either way, his gospel of wealth changed the way billionaires saw responsibility, inspiring men like Rockefeller and Gates to follow. Yet even in philanthropy, Carnegie's heart was restless. He spent his final years pleading for world peace, writing letters, offering money, trying to heal a world he once helped divide. But one wound never healed, his feud with Henry Frick. Near the end of his life, Carnegie sent Frick a letter, a humble attempt to reconcile. He wrote that they were both old now, and perhaps it was time to forgive, to let the past die before they did. Frick read the note, smirked, and told the messenger, "Tell Carnegie I'll meet him." He paused, then sneered. "Tell Carnegie I'll meet him in hell, since that's where we're both going." Andrew Carnegie built America out of steel and out of suffering. He rose from nothing to become the richest man on earth, then spent his life trying to wash away the cost of his own success. He gave the world bridges, skyscrapers, libraries, yet his empire was forged in blood, sweat, and fire. Carnegie was neither hero nor villain, just a man who proved that greatness always comes with a price. Remember, every great story starts with one step. Keep pushing forward, and never stop learning. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey to greatness.